Whole thing here with you, so get your notes out, kiddos, and we'll be ready to roll. Those of you who were gone for the last lecture, they are on the website, so you might want to get on there so you do well on this test. Okay. Asia, my dear, you're going to be first today. Who was the man who used his pioneering efforts to mass-produce low-priced automobiles that allowed many Americans to purchase one? Who was that guy? Henry Ford. Very good. So Henry Ford and his pioneering efforts to mass-produce low-priced automobiles allowed many Americans to purchase one. Delaney, my dear, what was an alternative or an alternate for wrapping paper in the 1920s? Cellophane. Very good. Used some last night. I was thinking of y'all when I was doing it. Morgan, who was the British researcher that discovered the drug known as penicillin?
Alexander Fleming.
Alexander Fleming. Very good. Kane, what was the name of the first all-white jazz band in America?
The original Dixieland Jazz Band.
Very good. The original Dixieland Jazz Band. There were three famous comedians in the 1920s, Sage. One was Charlie Chaplin, and the other ones were kind of a duo. Who were they? Duo comedians. One was tall and skinny, and one was short and round.
Laurel and Hardy.
Very good, Laurel and Hardy. Nice. Okay, Kellyanna, who became the first woman to swim the English Channel in the 1920s?
Gertrude Elliott.
Ederle, yep. Gertrude Ederle. Very good. Brady, in college football. Means you got your binder with you and all. So we're going to wait until you answer this correctly. Who was the great college football hero in the 1920s, also known as the Galloping Ghost?
That would be, not Charles, it's Barney.
Barney and who? Barney Fife? What's up, Dorno?
I'm supposed to show you.
Okay.
So,
Show me it. Come on, we got time here. What?
Red Grange.
Red Grange. Did Elliot help you out with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's do this. Just text that to me.
Okay. Because I have to do this.
Well, he'll be. Perfect. Let's take it from there, okay?
Oh my
Gotcha. All right. Nice job, Brady. Macklin. Who was the governor of Massachusetts who supported the Boston Police Commissioner's decision to fire all police officers on strike? Who was that governor? Very good. Calvin Coolidge. Ivan, my man. Who was the Republican nominee for president in the election of 1920? Republican nominee in 1920. Republican nominee in 1920.
Warren G. Harding.
Is that right? Okay. Who is the Democratic nominee? Caitlin? In 1920.
James M. Fox.
Right. Very good. Okay. What was the Republican slogan, Morg, for the presidential election of 1924 on the part of the Republicans? Republican slogan. Not keep hot with Hoover. So stay cool with Coolidge?
Keep cool.
Keep cool with Coolidge. Not keep hot with Hoover. Okay? Maddie, what were chemically produced fibers that were introduced in the 1920s called? Synthetics. Very good. Harris, what was an alternate to silk and rayon in the 1920s? Celanese, very good. Siobhan, my dear, what was used to control epileptic seizures in the 1920s? Phenobarbital. Now you better get some spelling on that one because you don't know how that's spelled. Phenobarbital. Casey, my dear, who was the man that flew from New York to Paris non-stop in 33 hours, making the first solo flight across the Atlantic Ocean in 1927? The Spirit of St. Louis he flew in. Located right in the National Air and Space Museum in Washington, D.C. Some of his best friends called him Chuck.
Charles Lindbergh.
Bad girl. Charles Lindbergh. Hey, Lauren, what was the best known nightclub in Harlem during the 1920s? Best known nightclub in Harlem in the 1920s. Not the Boom Boom Room, but the Cotton Club. Very good. Okay, Brady, who was the famous sports hero that was an auto racer in the 1920s?
That was Barney Oldfield.
Barney Oldfield, very good.
Yes.
How about the famous tennis player? Josh? Famous tennis player.
Helen Will.
Helen Wills. JC, how about that famous boxer?
Jack Dempsey.
Jack Dempsey. All right, and last but not least, Elise, who was a famous baseball player? Babe Ruth. By the way, anybody in baseball fans in here? Derek Jeter had his number for the Yankees. It's a pretty cool ceremony. Did you watch it? Yeah, it's pretty cool. Okay, those terms I just gave you will all be used in in fill in the blank questions. Fill in the blank questions. Those are all fill in the blank. Okay, we'll move on to these are three short answer questions. You ready? Michaela, my dear, give me one example of how the 1920s were considered a decade of change. Don't think about it too hard. What are some changes that happened in the 1920s?
What's this under?
It's under everything. Yeah, just look at your notes and tell me an example of how the 20s were different than any other decade. What came in? What type of things came in?
Electricity?
Electricity, there's one. Tristan, how about another example of the 20s were a decade of change?
Cars.
What's that?
Cars.
Probably won't take cars because we already asked him. That's okay, think of another one.
Synthetics.
Synthetics, did we talk about that already? Yes, we probably won't give you that one. Keep thinking.
Jazz.
Jazz era, very good. Jazz music, I'll give you that one. Okay, how about another one? Let's see. Caitlin, how about another one, dear?
Radios?
Radios, very good. Pete?
How about sound and
Movies, very good. Soundless movies, and later actually movies with sound. Sage, how about another change? Another change happened that we haven't mentioned. Think of any more?
Life expectancy?
What's that? No, what about the life expectancy? Got a girl
Lengthen?
from?
49 to 59?
Very good. That's a good change. That's a good change. Very good. See what else we got here. I think that's probably about enough, right? Okay. Emily, give me one great jazz musician that was of African American descent in the 1920s.
Okay.
Come on,
Louis
girl.
Armstrong.
What?
Louis Armstrong.
Louis Armstrong? How about another one, Paris? Duke Ellington? Anybody got another? Jelly Roll Morton? Who else?
Bessie Smith.
Bessie Smith? You need to know at least a couple of those, okay? All right, Hunter, give me one reason for the Great Depression according to historical economists.
America had such a high tariff on foreign countries that they stopped.
After,
World War
very good, America's high tariff policies for foreign countries after World War I, right? Because what happened is they quit buying, right? And we end up with more supply than demand. Okay, JC, give me another reason.
There was a lot of easy money to be saved, so people decided to spend it and not save it.
Right, very good. So what's the reason though? You gave the example. He said America's high tariff policies on foreign countries after World War I. You gave and I gave the example. You gave the example, which is a depression was inevitable because of the easy money Americans had earned, nobody saved. But it was considered what? Part of. Did I write that down? I didn't tell you. Nobody wrote that down? Well, we'll just give it to you. Part of the American system. I probably didn't say that, but we'll go with JC's explanation rather than that. Okay? So basically, another reason was because of all the easy money people made, they spent instead of saved. So make sure on the one that Hunter stated on America's high tariff policies on foreign countries after World War I, that foreign countries quit buying from the United States, which gave more supply than demand. Hey, what was the last one, Maddie?
People borrow money to invest
In?
in stock market.
Yeah, that's very weird but true. People borrowed money to invest in the stock market, which is great as long as you're making money in the stock market. But once it crashed, it not only took all of their money, but the money they had borrowed also. Okay, so make sure you're able to explain that. Okay, everybody go into your notes because you're going to have a short essay on the Teapot Dome scandal. And here's what the essay is going to say. It's going to say, explain in detail the Teapot Dome scandal during the presidency of Warren Harding. So everybody get their notes so we make sure we get this thing right. Teapot Dome scandal. Okay, where did the Teapot Dome scandal occur? Anybody? At Teapot Dome, Wyoming. Okay, Teapot Dome, Wyoming. And what was located there, Siobhan?
Oil reserve.
That belonged to which branch of the service?
Navy.
Navy. So the scandal took place at Teapot Dome, Wyoming. And what was at Teapot Dome, Wyoming were naval oil reserves. In other words, oil owned by the Navy that were to be used in case we needed them. Which at the time we didn't need them, right? Because they're in reserve. Okay, give me one person that the scandal involved, Cherith.
Albert Fall.
And what was his position in Harding's cabinet?
Secretary of the
He was Secretary of the Interior. Who was the other player in that, Pete? And what was his position in the Harding cabinet? Well, it had to do with naval oil reserves, so he was the Secretary of the Navy. Okay? Now, what happened is Secretary of the Navy, Edwin Denby, had jurisdiction over those naval oil reserves at Teapot Dome because he was the Secretary of the Navy. And what happened is Secretary of the Interior, Albert Fall, persuaded Denby to transfer that jurisdiction over to him. So when he did that, the Secretary of the Interior, Albert Fall, had control of those oil reserves. And what he did is he leased them to private oil speculators. He rented the oil, so to speak. So, I don't know how to explain this the best. Here's a tank of oil. and it's this full, okay? So he would lease or rent that oil to speculators, and it would go down, and then they would bring more in, right? And we never really noticed it at first because we had no need for extra oil. Does that make sense? But eventually we did, and these guys were caught. And the scandal became public early in 1923, and both Secretary of the Interior Albert Fall and Secretary of the Navy Edwin Denby were prosecuted for their scandal, their stealing basically, and were sent to prison. Because who was gaining the money off these leases? Fall for sure, and probably Denby was getting some off it too. Okay, so just remember the following things. It's a kind of a short essay. If I was writing, I would say during the Harding administration, a scandal took place at Teapot Dome, Wyoming, where naval oil reserves were located. Secretary of the Navy Edwin Denby had jurisdiction over those oil reserves, and Secretary of the Interior Albert Fall talked him into giving the jurisdiction to him. Once Fall had the jurisdiction over those naval oil reserves, he leased those oil reserves to private oil speculators at a profit for himself. Because the scandal became public early in 1923, and because probably both Fall and Denby were gaining financially from these leases, they were prosecuted and sent to prison. Okay, pretty simple. All right. Any questions at all? Okay, what I'm going to do then is I'm going to stop the video here. That test will be worth 105 points tomorrow, and we'll meet in the Commons to take it.